Yo, welcome to all my cloud chasers out there. This is your boy Big Cloud. Today we're talking about the gold to silver ratio as you see on your screen. And typically, normally people talk about it when they're talking about ounces. But what about grams? Could you go from gram to gram? Which you absolutely can go gram for gram when we're talking about the gold to silver ratio. How do you know that, Big Cloud? Because I just did this the other day. Look, listen to me. Let's just talk about traditionally real quick, and then we're going to move forward. I hope everyone's doing well. Please like, subscribe. I am a new YouTube content creator when it comes to silver and gold. I'm a new stacker, and I may not look like you when it comes to stacking, but I'm here, baby, and we're here together, all learning and getting all this information. So, with that said, I want to thank you very much for liking and subscribing. Look, all right. So typically, when you talk about the gold to silver ratio, one thing that makes it very interesting when it comes to it is that you could basically take one or the other precious metal, silver or gold, and trade in between them at certain points without putting up any extra money in order to gain ounces when it comes to your personal stack, right? And so it becomes very powerful in that way. One of the key things is you would want to start off with a significant amount of either or, which gold or silver, in order to begin this trading in between the metals. And then you also seems to need a lot of patience before these transactions happen because historically the trades in between silver and gold, as far as the example that's used on silverbullion.com.sg, is these are years and sometimes decades in between transactions. And right, and we're not going to go so much into that as you see on the screen. I'll just give a brief overview of it. This is called the 80-50 rule, right? And so it basically states that when the gold to silver ratio, which is the amount of silver that you need in order to reach 1 ounce of gold, right? So 80 to 1, meaning you would need 80 to, well, 80-50 rule. When a gold to silver ratio, let's just say, is 80 to 1, meaning you need 80 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. And then let's say when it goes down to 50, when the ratio goes down to 50, it say when you need 50 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. These are the times where you can switch in between the metals, right? But it's just a rule that on how to multiply your ounces without buying more necessarily, right? And so this is why some people would suggest that you would want to start out with a significant amount up front, right? Maybe you want to start out with a couple ounces of gold, or you want to start out with a couple hundred ounces of silver. But either way, you can start however you want to start. Our place is our place, and where we're at is where we're at. So we're not sweating that. I just want you guys to understand, like, if you want to see these big gains or whatever, like, you need to start big, right? But you could definitely start small. I'm starting small. Like I said, we talk about grams. Do it for the gram. Hey, do it for the gram. And so what I did was, this is not financial advice. Once again, I'm not a financial advisor or anything of that nature. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Don't sue me, bro. So look, um, I started out, typically when this 80-50 rule is talked about, it's talked about in terms of ounces, like I stated before. And actually, the switch happens when you actually start at 45 grams not 45 grams, 45 ounces. When the GSR goes down to 45 to 1 is when the switch happens from silver to gold, right? And then when you get back up to 80 is when you want to switch your gold for silver. And you keep repeating that every time the GSR hits those numbers, which is 45 and 80, which is actually a 35-point swing. It's really a 35-point swing. Uh, the 80-50 rule is just basically saying, hey, when the GSR hits 50, start looking to getting ready to switch and to start buying or get ready to switch your silver into gold. Another caveat to that is maybe you're not switching from silver to gold, but they look at it, other people will look at it as a buying opportunity, right? So when the GSR is low, let's say, but between 45 and 60 is a good time to be buying gold versus buying silver. And when the GSR is at, like, let's just say 65, 80 and above, it's a good time to be buying silver, right? But what we'll see in most recent history is that the GSR has been high, right? And that's simply because the central banks have been buying up tons and tons of gold, right? And so I watched one video yesterday with a young lady, and she basically broke it down like, when you see these spikes in the in gold as far as central banks buying them, what you'll notice is that they've bought the gold after some type of crisis hit. And so she highlighted how the pause happened when the United States took the gold off of the backing, when they took the gold off of the dollar. Did I say that right? When they took the gold off of the dollar, right? When they paused it, it's just been a pause, so it hasn't been like shut off. It's always been paused since 1971, right? So that's why our U.S. dollar is no longer backed by gold, because it's been a pause on that. But when that happens, it highlights in the charts that central banks started buying up a bunch of gold after the fact, right? And then it happened again in after the .com bust in the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002. After that, boom, gold skyrocketed. Same thing with the housing market crash or collapse in 2008. So after that, we know like 2012, 2009, 2010, 11, 12, gold, the buying of gold from central banks skyrocketed. But it was after those events. And we see the same thing happen with COVID right here in 2020, right? COVID happened in 2020. After 2020, the central banks started buying up tons of gold, right? And then it died down like 2021. But then 2022, the since 2022, central banks have been buying up tons of gold. 22, 23, 24. Here we are in 2025, and these central banks have been buying up tons and tons of gold. And most recently, it's what's really been pushing the gold price to these all-time highs we've been hitting recently. And what she highlighted in the video, the young lady, I'm sorry I can't remember her name or even the title of her YouTube channel. Um, but what she highlighted was that, in her perspective, it seems like that central banks are actually preparing for gold to be the new standard when it comes to finances of the world. And so it's her perspective and it's her understanding that, and with her thesis is that, hey, they're preparing this time. They're not waiting for something bad to happen. They're buying up all the gold now in preparation for something to happen. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense, right? I kind of get that. I can roll with that, right? But then also, for me personally, and just how I think maybe, the pandemic was so traumatic to the central banks, excuse me, that they're still in that um, buying after the tragedy has happened mode, right? I think that pattern that she showed, I think, even though I think they might be, because they did it right after, like in 2021, they bought up a bunch of gold, the central banks, and then 2000, they bought up a little bit of gold in 2021, which, it was a little bit high, but 2022 really accelerated. And so I think that they're still in that after the crisis happened, buying gold. That's what I think, right? I think they're not necessarily preparing for gold to be this new standard of financial backing, but I think they're still recovering from the hurt of the pandemic. Remember, it was a global pandemic. It just wasn't happening in the United States. It just wasn't happening in Australia. It just wasn't happening in Russia. It was throughout the world, right? And so I think the central banks are really still playing catch up, and gold is really the catalyst and succeeding the most when it comes to the buying of precious metals, which makes sense, right? You want to, gold is a good asset, it's a good thing to have, and all these things, right? Now, and then I watched another video where it basically said that, silver always lags, right? So the price of gold will run up in these different time areas that on the timeline, right? Gold will run up, but then, you know, a little while later, then silver has its push. And what the gurus are saying is that this next push of silver is going to be so much, it's going to be so high, right? I don't know that. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But one thing I do know is that I'm going to keep a watch out and I'm going to be looking, to see what happens in that market. Um, and so we're gonna put a pin in that. So just tell me your thoughts about that, the gold to silver ratio and all that when it comes to central banks buying up all the gold and how to multiply your stack without buying any more gold necessarily or silver, just by trading in between those two metals. What is your feelings and what is your logical explanations for those type of things? And I just kind of wanted to go into what I just did most recently. Like I said, it's not financial advice, and this is not the quote unquote the best move to make, right? But like I said, you don't have to have ounces of gold to start to play around with the GSR. You can do it in grams, right? Grams is kind of the base level when it comes to the weights, and so you can't get to an ounce without going to get a gram first, right? And some people can say, hey, well, you can get a milligram, right? And you got the grains of gold and the grains of silver, right? But I'm not that down. I'm not that down, y'all. But um, I have 4 ounces of gold that I had bought last year, and that average for those four prices was about $82.50. And I just recently traded since I looked at the GSR. It still was high. Um, I don't really see it coming down too much too soon, but that's just me. But anyway, I wanted to get rid of the gold and buy some silver, but not just any silver. I wanted to buy dimes. And so my local coin shop, they were able to do the transaction for me, which they actually offered me was $320 for those for those gold grams that I had. And basically, I was thinking like, yo, I could, because I was doing some research before, and I was like, yo, I probably could sell these gold grams on the internet for maybe at least 400 minimum, but I was hoping to get 500 on the internet. But my local coin shop said, well, he would do it for $320. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so he basically gave me $80 a piece for those gold grams, and the spot price for those gold grams was like $103, $104 a piece, right? That's the spot price per gram for the gold. And I bought three of those pieces at like $89, $88, $82, and another one at $74 or something to that nature, right? At spot prices when I bought those all last year in 2024. But anyway, um, so they actually offered me um, 10 grams of silver for generic rounds, and I was like, I was hesitant. I should have. Well, if you're just talking about stacking weight, I should have did it if you just wanted to stack weight, right? But I really wanted some fractional gold. I mean, fractional silver, and I really wanted these Mercury dimes, and simply because I like the way they look. I had Mercury dimes before. I got rid of them. I wanted some more of them. But the price for Mercury dimes at my local coin shop is still high, in my opinion, at $3.50 each. But if you get the face value of $5, you can get them basically for $2.50, so $1 off. So I believe it came up to like $124 for the $5 face value, which I was, when I do my calculations, I think it really should be like $101 or something to that nature. Face for $5 face value of dimes. But however, I got all Mercury dimes, which matters a little bit. One of the Mercury dimes is like in great condition. I don't know how. I think it's from like 1936, but it's like pristine, like it's brand new. But all the other ones are old, used, you know what I mean, and worn out. But also, I wanted the dimes because it allowed my dad. I'm the youngest of all my father's kids, and my dad was older when I was born. So he was born actually in 1940, and I wanted to get some 1940 dimes. I had some before, and I wanted some more, and so I scavenged through, found some. So I'm happy with that. Another thing about the Mercury dimes is that, or those junk silver dimes, they actually hold just over 2 grams of silver. And so um, when you go like gram for gram, it's a still 100-to-1 ratio when you're talking about going from gold to silver or silver to gold. So actually, I really should have got if you just talk about gram for gram, if you're going 1 for 1, right, everything being equal, I should have got uh 200 200 silver dimes, right? But I end up getting 100 and no, I lied. I should have got 200 individually. That would have been four. I ended up getting 121 silver dimes. And so I still need about, there goes I still need 79 more in order to hit that, that break even point when it comes to going 100 and one, the 100-to-1 ratio of gold to silver when you're talking about grams, right? But even when you're talking about ounces, it's the same, but on the level of grams, it was 100-to-1. Um, and so when you take away those 79 coins, that's that $80 that the local coin shop did not uh, give me. I'm gonna say that as far as value for the exchange, which is okay with me because I got the dimes when I wanted, and I didn't really want to deal with the hassle of actually trying to sell the grams of gold online and having to ship it off. Not that that is a hassle or anything, but it just wasn't. I was at the coin shop. Let's just make it happen right now. Um, and so in total, though, as far as weight goes, it basically equals about a little over eight. I think it's about 8.5 or a little under 8.5 ounces of silver in total. And so I guess I could have got 2 more ounces of silver had I went with the rounds, but I'm happy with my dimes. I just wish it was more dimes, right? um, but that's going gram for gram when you're talking about going from gold gram to silver grams, right? I use Mercury dimes as a way to do the transaction. And so I could like kind of understand it a little bit better on a basic level. Excuse me. And I look forward to the GSR, how it's going to move within the next couple of years to see, hey, should I go ahead and sell the silver now and go back into gold? The question is, when do you do it? Like I say, traditionally, has been a 35-point swing. I think that 35-point swing from 45 to 80 is pretty much over as far as those numbers. If we're going to stick with that 35-point range, I think the GSR uh, may be like 120 down to what, 75. But for me personally, I'm looking for the GSR to get down to about 93-to-1, 90-to-1 before I actually start deeply considering going back into gold with my silver. And I just won't be using those silver dimes I talked about. I'll use some more of my stack of silver in order to make that transaction happen so I can get a bigger piece of gold, right? Maybe a half an ounce, it may be three 1/4 ounce, it may be 1/2 ounce, 1/4 ounce, it may be 3 or 4 1/10. We'll see what happens. But we're looking at the GSR and we're saying, okay, when this GSR gets down to 90, then if I go back, if I switch it to different metals, that's a 10-point swing. Nowhere near the historical rule of the 80-50 rule of that 35-point swing. But I think at this time and being impatient, right, not really wanting to wait so long, 15-point swing is okay, right? If you get a 20-point swing, you're really knocking it out of the park. And if the GSR reaches a level where the spread is at 35 points difference, oh my goodness, right? That would be crazy. But it all depends on how fast the silver can actually start closing the gap, right? Because gold's not going to fall down tremendously at all. It may not grow as fast, but gold's not going to all of a sudden be valued at $1,800 ounce. If that happens, that means something's terribly wrong in the world at the time, like we had with the pandemic, right? If we get another event like that, then oh my goodness, you'll see people with precious metals, you know, uh, trade in and out of metals like crazy. But in that scenario, if gold goes down that much, silver is going to plummet as well, right? And so we could just imagine what the GSR would be in that type of pandemic scenario again. However, I don't know if that's actually going to happen anytime soon, right? I think what's more so going to happen is that central banks are going to continue to be buying up gold like crazy, and uh, as gold gets much more expensive for the common person like myself, I think we'll see those people who were buying gold start to buy more silver, and then that will help lift up the silver tides along with more industrial um, pressure for industries to get silver, right? But I think all these things are going to take years and years and years to happen. So the next 5 to 15 years is going to be very important to look at. But in the meantime, we're going to keep an eye out for the GSR. Me personally, if I have a big opportunity, if I get a big influx of cash, bonus money, go to the casino and hit some money like something crazy, it's like some wild, unexpected check in the mail that's, a few $1,000s, that's when I'll go ahead and okay, we'll buy gold. In the meantime, every day, regular, using your money that you got from your 9 to 5 or money that you got from your side hustle, while the GSR is still, above 90, we're going to keep buying silver, right? So salute to everyone out there. That's my rant for today. Tell me what you guys are doing. Are your strategies? Do you even care about the gold to silver ratio? Or are you just dollar cost averaging in? So every time you get paid, you got your set amount of money that you're going to spend, and you just put it in gold or silver or both in some cases. Are you buying grams? Do you not like grams? Or are you just buying a strict ounces? So tell me what you guys got going on out there. I appreciate it. Once again, like, subscribe, share. This your boy, Big Cloud Chasing Coins. Peace.